So today is a special evening at EJ Law Academy, and we have all participants who are, associated with Efficacious Judicial Academy either directly or indirectly. And if I have to introduce Paras, I can, recall this evening in the year 2022 after I finished my session at Efficacious Judicial Academy. I got a voice, I got a call from Jodhpur, and that was from Jodhpur National Law University. And it reached out to me, and it was a very eager and a very inquisitive voice which was ready to explore the world of Himachal Pradesh Judicial Services Examination. So she is from Jodhpur National Law University, and that voice belonged to Paras. And she is a student whose journey has begun with us, and it is nothing short than inspiring. It is really inspiring for me personally, and today you all would know this journey personally. वन टू वन आप इस जर्नी को जो है आज आप देखेंगे और सुनेंगे कि हाउ शी हैज been through all this law school, law exam, and then navigating through the judicial services examination. And together we have taken countless mock tests. We have been waiting for HP judiciary exam notification, official notification to come, but then it did not come. So फिर हम लोगों ने क्या किया? Parallelly, we started with Delhi Judicial Services, and then we started giving and preparing mocks, and finally we saw the day when an official notification of HP Judicial Services Examination came, and she was all set to appear and just crack it. So yes, over to you. Finally, the most awaited announcement that I wanted to make, that yes, Paras is finally a judge sahiba, and others also. I really wanted. I'm looking forward कि ये दिन सबकी life में आए. And now I would like Paras to give us some of her educational and her background about herself. Yes, over to you, Paras. Would love to hear from you.
Ma'am, first of all, thank you so much for that introduction. And, when you mentioned about that call, I could literally feel those memories in front of my eyes that about 1.5 years ago, I was so anxious and so desperate to clear this exam. And now I finally have, with your blessings and guidance. And ma'am, it's just been a wonderful journey with you. And I'm talking about my background. So most of my education I have done from Chandigarh, and after that, in the year, so I went to National University Jodhpur for my graduation, and I graduated in 2022. And after that, I have been preparing for judiciary exams, and this is my first exam, and with the guidance of ma'am, I've been able to crack it. And yeah, that's about it.
That's an incredible journey, because she's been in the National Law University, which is one of the most prestigious universities in India. Paras, because, first I will start with the basic questions like, when did you actually start preparing for Judicial Services Examination? ये एक question है ना, जो एक कोई भी aspirant है. आज भी मुझे बहुत सारे messages आए थे कि मैम, I'm in my first year, can I start preparing for Judicial Services Examination? कई बच्चे अभी क्लैट दे रहे हैं और अभी लॉ स्कूल में जाना है, तो वो कहते हैं मैम हम भी जुडिशरी की तैयारी कर लें, और कहीं 4th ईयर में है, 5th ईयर में है. दे आर आल्सो थिंकिंग दैट व्हाट इज द राइट टाइम टू स्टार्ट योर प्रिपरेशन. एंड सेकेंडली, what was what sparked that interest in you for judiciary? What was so interesting that that basically took you for Judicial Services Examination? So that's going to be my second question. And what is the best strategy for judiciary?
Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, I started my preparation about towards the beginning of my 4th year. I wouldn't say that I started it with full rigor. For 2 years I was studying rigorously, but I started it about the same time when I decided that I have to be a judicial officer. So towards the beginning of my 4th year, I'd made up my mind. Before that, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I was like exploring whether I should go for corporate litigation. And towards the beginning of my fourth year, I finally decided that this is what I want to do. And it is around that time only when I decided that I thought that I should start my preparation. So during the last 2 years of my graduation, I was preparing all through, but I would say the intensity of the preparation kept varying because, like in my fourth year, I wasn't studying for 7-8 hours judiciary की preparation में college का भी था. So थोड़ा थोड़ा I was doing like I was reading the law, I was reading the standard books, but not with that perspective of trying to remember every case law, but I was just strengthening my basics. So then towards my fifth year, I started focusing on how I should write answers, remembering the case laws, and that exam specific preparation, like targeted to prelims, targeted to mains. That's what I did in my fifth year. In my fourth year, I was just doing my readings from the major books to sort of, have a strong base which I can carry on in my journey. So, ma'am, about the second question, that when should one start preparation? I think, ma'am, there is no one correct answer to it. Like if you have been a graduate and you have graduated 3 years ago and you want to prepare now, so you must give it your all, and it's not a wrong time to prepare. It's a perfect time to prepare. But I would say one shouldn't start like if you are appearing for CLAT or in your first year. I don't think it's the correct time to like rigorously start your preparation for judiciary. The perfect sort of time would be, I think, fourth year, or if you're in a 3-year course, then around middle of the second year. That way, you will have sufficient time to prepare before you graduate. And the first notification that comes out after your graduation, you can appear for that. So I think that would be a good time to start, ma'am. And ma'am, about the strategy for preparation, I think, ma'am, the strategy for preparation would differ on like the kind of person we are. For instance, some of us like to read from the books, make our own notes, and then study. Some of us may be audio visual learners and we like to view videos, and that's when we grasp more. So, trying to identify which kind of person you are. Do you want to read the standard books, make your own notes, and then take that route, or do you want to like watch videos and make notes from there and then continue your journey? Would that be a better strategy? So identifying the kind of learner you are. I think ma'am had made a very wonderful video on this topic on YouTube, that identifying the kind of learner you are and then choosing the strategy. But irrespective of the kind of learner you are, I feel after you decide like whichever mode you want to choose, one has to one thing which I feel is very important, one has to prepare for mains before prelims. Your preparation for mains should be almost done before prelims, and when the notification comes, you can then focus on prelims and objective type questions. And after you clear your prelims, वो जो थोड़ा सा time मिलता है 2 महीने का, उसमें we can just do rigorous answer writing practice and just revise our notes and do that finishing. उसके बाद वाला time वो time नहीं होता when we start with our mains preparation. हमारी mains की preparation पहले ही हो जाती है prelim से. तो वो एक चीज है that we should sort out in our mind, that our preparation should be done before our prelims preparation so that we feel very safe around the mains. So yes, ma'am, that's the broad strategy that I feel we should.
So what sparked your interest in judiciary? That was my yes.
Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, I felt that, so when I was in my third year, I was through my internships, I was exploring different things. Like I also did a corp law internship, and I actually thought that I would really like it and I would want to take up that as my career option. But almost instantaneously, I felt that this is not my place, and I want to do something which is more connected to public law, and where I get to use my learnings of law to solve real problems, where there is that satisfaction. And in addition to that, I really like to express myself on paper, write a lot, and I feel by being a judicial officer, you get such a wonderful opportunity to change things around you through your writing, which I feel is such a powerful thing, and it's such a wonderful opportunity, and that really fascinated me, and ma'am, I chose this.
Paris, your journey really resonates with service, resilience, and dedication. Yeah. So now let's get into some more layers of your journey. Can you share a few significant hurdles that you encountered, and what was the most effective strategy that helped you to come out of that challenge?
Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, first of all, I feel that I am a really blessed person. I have wonderful parents and wonderful family, wonderful teachers who made my journey very comfortable for me. Like I feel I really worked hard a lot, but I wasn't struggling. So I feel I'm very blessed in that respect. But of course, it's a journey which takes about 1 or 2 years. So we do face hurdles, and I also faced hurdles, normal hurdles that any judiciary aspirant would face. And I think all of you would relate that in judiciary there is no certainty of when the notification will come, and that that fact that कब notification आएगी, कैसे हम plan करें, वो चीज़ बहुत कभी कभी डिस्टर्ब करती है हमें. हम उस चक्कर में पढ़ ही नहीं पाते कि अच्छा हम पढ़ लें और notification ना आए. तो I think some of you would be able to relate to that. So in fact, when I joined with ma'am in May 2022, I called her for judiciary. We were expecting ki aa jayegi tab, but it came after so long. And so there's that uncertainty always in competitive exams, that when the notification will come, even if we work hard, will we be able to clear it? So that background uncertainty sometimes makes you feel very anxious, and I also used to feel anxious on some days, or just sad or burnt out on some days. And I think what I used to do to deal with it was to talk to my parents, to talk to my friends. Yeah, after 1 or 2 weeks, I used to take some break for 2, 3 hours, listen to some music, watch some good thing on the internet, and get back. And if I felt that my stress level was like manageable, then I used to ignore that stress and continue studying. But sometimes, that stress level is so high that you can't study with that stress. So it's good to do something, get out of that work zone for some time, and do something that you really like. It can be talking to your parents, watching something, playing a sport, whatever. So I used to really enjoy talking to my parents, and it used to make me feel very light. So I used to do that. Or maybe like sleep a few hours extra. So these things, because at the end of the day we know that after 2 3 एक दिन हम दे सकते हैं, उसके बाद पढ़ना तो हमें है, हमें भी पता है पढ़ना है. तो कुछ ऐसा कर लें जिससे we feel relaxed, we feel like working again. So these things I used to do to get back to work again.
Wonderful. Your experience, I'm sure, will definitely help others to treat who are treating on the same path. And yes. So, what about your answer writing, Paras? Did it help, like, practicing answer writing?
Ma'am, a lot. I think a lot, because from my experience, I can tell you that answer writing practice is a must, and it will help you so much. Like practicing answer writing was the most important part of my journey, because when you practice a lot of answers, then inevitably most of the questions you will find in exams, you will have a sense of familiarity with those questions, and wo fatafat practicing a lot. First of all, it helps you develop your speed, which is very important, because exams, especially in HP criminal law paper, and even this time civil law one paper, it's a race against time. So it helps you develop speed. Secondly, from my experience, I have learned this thing that nothing can compare the memory of things I have of topics I've written an answer on. So if there is a topic and I've written an answer on it, I will not forget the important points in that topic ever. So no number of revisions can ever compare the memory you will have of things you have written an answer on. So when you write an answer on any topic, तो वो हमारी memory में हमेशा रहती हैं उसके important points, and वो it helps you retain things a lot. And of course, when you write answers, you understand how you should present your knowledge, how you should articulate your views, which is the most important thing. So yeah, practicing answer writing, I feel it's a must. And ma'am, even for prelims, I feel practicing MCQs is a must. So practice for all the 3 stages is very important.
Thank you so much. So as we continue with your, layers of experience, and we take up the pearls of wisdom that Paras is sharing, now I would like to, also know about your detailed strategy for preliminary examination, for mains examination, and for interview. All 3 stages, one by one, if you can just throw some light on the three phases of the judicial services examination, Paras. Thank you.
Sure, ma'am. First of all, I would suggest that we, for prelims and mains, we should keep our past year papers as a base, which will help us frame a good strategy how we should go about it. So, the first thing to do is look at least past 5 year papers for prelims and mains. Try to read those papers, and when you will read those papers, analyze those papers, you'll be able to see that क्वेश्चंस कैसे पूछे जाते हैं, कहाँ से पूछे जाते हैं. प्रीलिम्स में अलग तरह के क्वेश्चंस पूछे जाते हैं विच रिक्वायर अ डिफरेंट strategy, and mains में अलग तरह के questions पूछे जाते हैं which require a whole different strategy. For instance, for prelims, if we look at it, then it's more bare act based, and every section of the bare act is important. But for mains, there are some sections of the bare act which are important, but for those sections we need to go way beyond bare act. For example, rejection of plaint is important for mains, but usme sirf order 7 rule 11 is not important. Uske sath we have to do a number of cases which will build our understanding of that topic. But for prelims, every provision of the bare act is important, but not in that great detail. So we need to know the numbers of the sections. We need to know the little details of the sections, like how many days this thing is to be completed. And so those details are important for prelims. Like if we analyze the past year papers for HP, then two peculiar things in prelims are that they always ask questions on case laws in prelims. And second is they always ask questions on amendments, this time also, and if in the past year papers also. So when we'll analyze the past year papers, we'll be able to find those areas which are peculiar to HP, or if we are preparing for any other exam, which are peculiar to that exam. So understanding that pattern is also important. And for prelims, I would say repeated reading of the bare acts, like read it multiple times, 7 to 8 times at least we should read every bare act. Prelims mein, it's important to remember section numbers. There are some questions which are based exactly on like which section is it written in, so that also becomes important. And then just practicing a lot of questions, past year papers, you can refer to books, mock tests. So just practice a lot of prelims questions. When you will practice those questions, practice is also a revision in its own way. When we practice a question on a certain topic, we are revising that particular provision. So that was broadly my strategy for prelims. For mains, I would say, ma'am, that mains mein answer writing is very important, and mains mein again the whole bare act is not important. They provide us with bare acts in the mains. So most of the questions are not bare act based. They are beyond the bare act. They want us to write things which are not explicitly given in the bare acts. So if they are asking you even a question which is exactly given in the bare act, for example, if they're asking you explain rejection of plaint, उसमें अगर हम वही order 7 rule 11 जैसा bare act में दिया है वैसा लिख देंगे, so the examiner would not be able to give us marks, because the examiner knows that this person had the bare act, the person has directly written the bare act in the answer. The examiner wants us to go beyond the bare act, because that's the purpose why they have given us the bare act. Just make a reference अगर कोई section भूलता है, but they are testing our knowledge beyond the bare act. So it's in mains, it's very important to go beyond bare acts. Refer to case laws, refer to principles, maxims, interlinking of provisions, so that we can improve our answers. Again, for mains in HP, we'll find even if they don't repeat the questions, they certainly have certain fixed areas. Jisme se they repeatedly ask questions. For example, contract law में quasi contracts पे बहुत बार questions आए हैं HP में. So there are certain peculiar areas which are the favorite areas in HP judiciary. So if we'll analyze the past year papers, we'll be able to, streamline our preparation for mains in that sense also. And after that, I believe answer writing practice for mains is very, very important, because mains में prelims में बिल्कुल time का इतना issue नहीं रहता. We have sufficient time in prelims and in HP, but mains में time is the main issue. It's a race against time, and paper ही complete नहीं होता, वही major issue रहता है. So practicing a lot of questions, practicing mock tests, that becomes very important for mains. So, ma'am, that was my broad strategy for prelims and mains.
But while you were preparing for the preliminary or mains examination, Paras, तो किस तरीके से आपने पढ़ा? What was the material that you referred to?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, before my prelims, I prepared my notes for mains. So that background understanding really helps you read your bare acts well. So with that background understanding for my prelims, I read the bare acts multiple times, and I tried to remember the section numbers, remember those details जो generally पूछी जाती हैं, like जो periods होते हैं, period of times, जैसे कि written statement कितने time में file करनी है, ये सब चीजें, these details, or this provision was added by which amendment, under this section which authority has the power. So these things, when we'll read the bare acts, we'll understand that okay, this is the important part of the bare act. So reading the bare acts multiple times, that was one thing I did for prelims specifically.
Did you make any skeleton notes?
Ma'am,
Like I
for,
said, for
ma'am,
preliminary examination.
ma'am, for prelims, I didn't make any skeleton notes. So when I read the bare acts multiple times, in my last few readings when I was reading it, so पढ़ते पढ़ते मुझे ऐसे लगता था कि ये चीज मैंने पहले नहीं देखी है, ये चीज मुझे याद नहीं थी, तो उस चीज को मैंने नोट कर लिया था. Because मैम prelims में I feel all the sections are important. So if we go into note making for prelims at a very early stage, then we'd inevitably be copying the bare act again. So I would say that for prelims, if you want to do note making, then towards the very end, जब बेयर एक्ट्स रिवाइज कर रहे हैं या क्वेश्चंस पढ़ते पढ़ते हमें कुछ एक दो एरिया जैसे लगता है कि हमें याद नहीं है, और this we had not taken note of at all, then those things we can make notes of separately. But otherwise, bare acts was the major source for revision.
And for mains examination, how did you prepare? Were you selective or were you comprehensive? कि सब कुछ पढ़ना चाहिए या सिर्फ selectively पढ़ा?
So for ma'am, for mains, I refer to the standard books, जैसे कि for CPC, Takwani, and for CRPC we have Kelkar, IPC Pillai. So likewise, I refer to these standard books, and in my first reading, I didn't try to remember anything or learn anything or even make notes. In my first reading, I just read these books. In my second or third reading, I tried to make notes out of these, and I tried to make notes after looking at the past year papers. So there's this book by Singh which has topic-wise segregated questions of mains, like for CPC, res judicata से जो भी questions अभी तक किसी भी state में आए हैं, so they have segregated it separately. So if I'm reading the topic of res judicata from Takwani, I'll read it and I'll look at all those questions and see that ये questions मुझे आंसर हो पा रहे हैं मुझसे या नहीं हो पा रहे हैं. So those areas I'll search and I'll look for those areas again in the book to locate ki was I not able to comprehend it properly, did I miss it, or is it not at all given in the book. So whatever the case may be, I just added it in my notes. So like that I prepared my notes, ma'am, that reading the bare act plus the past year papers, and prepared it in a very in a very short way, because I didn't want to copy the book again. So only those things which I thought that I'll forget, or which would help me remember the other things. So I prepared my notes like that for every subject after reading the books plus the past year questions from that topic wise.
So Paris has put in a lot of labor, right? A lot of labor. But अगर कुछ ready-made मिले तो then yes, if you have something with already the past year's papers and you have all the topic-wise detailed, analysis of the section and the interlinking of the section, right? I think that Paris has done it. Like how much time did it take for you to, do the whole thing all by yourself?
So ma'am, in my like fourth year when I started, so for some time in my fourth year, I was just doing my first reading. And then in my second reading, I started making notes. And I think fourth, fifth year में दोनों में धीरे धीरे करके हो गया था मैम, 2 years में complete.
Paris ने भी time manage किया है, college and preparation for Judicial Services Examination. So that's also another inspiration, right?
Ma'am, but like at that time there was COVID and I was at home, and college, we know, like obviously it was a hard time, but a blessing in disguise tha that college ka itna pressure nahi tha, so I was able to devote time that way. I think for students nowadays it's a little more difficult.
So what is the tip that you would give them? Because there are most of them who are going to college and they're struggling, exams hai, how to manage time. So how can they do that?
Ma'am, I think we'll have to put in extra hours because we want to do it, so we'll have to do it. तो एक दो 2-3 घंटे एक्स्ट्रा डालने पड़ेंगे अब. There's no other way around.
Yes, yes, yes. Anything or any suggestion that you would give them कि कैसे ये कुछ extra time निकाल सकते हैं अपने daily 24 hours में से? How can they take out some extra time for the preparation?
Ma'am, I think like initially I used to find myself in like पूरा दिन बीत जाता था and मुझे लगता था कि कुछ हुआ नहीं and waste भी नहीं किया time. But then I tried to think about my day and I at least used to keep wasting a lot of time and वो 15-15 मिनट करके 3-4 घंटे दिन के waste हो जाते थे. Like किसी का फोन आ गया तो ऐसे ही, या फिर हम स्क्रॉल करते करते भी बहुत टाइम वेस्ट कर देते हैं. तो आई डिड दिस एक्सरसाइज एंड इट रियली हेल्प मी. आई ट्राइड टू थिंक दैट सुबह उठ के 8 बजे के बाद मैं 10 बजे पढ़ने बैठती हूँ. मैं 2 घंटे में ऐसा क्या करती हूँ लाइक कुछ प्रोडक्टिव नहीं होता. एंड व्हेन वी थिंक अबाउट इट वी रियलाइज दैट ओके लाइक दीज लिटिल थिंग्स ये क्यूमुलेटिवली हमारे घर के दिन के 3-4 घंटे we are able to we waste 3-4 hours in doing these things. So I would recommend that if you can just sit and think that when you wake up and then when you sleep iske beech mein what are the things that we do. Try to keep a record of every thing you spend 10 or 15 minutes on. Even if you spend 10 or 15 minutes on that thing, try to keep a record of it and you will be able to realize that these are the things I can actually filter out in my day and save a lot of time.
In our academy, we have this session which is inner circle call.
Yes.
And in that inner circle call, we just help students to, manage their times,
right,
goal setting. So I tell them, this I've been telling them repeatedly. आज पारस ने भी बोल दिया कि अपना जो पूरा डे है ना 24 hours उसको पूरा this time I'm going to wake up, this time I'm going to get freshen up, this time is going to be my breakfast, this time I'm going to start, so that has to be planned before you sleep.
Yes,
the next day needs to be planned before you sleep because I feel that ठीक है सब लोग preliminary examination, mains examination, interview की बात कर रहे हैं but it is very important कि हम लोग जो है ना personal aspect की भी बात करें because yes goal setting is very important.
Yes.
So even if you are going to college and simultaneously preparing for judicial services examination, I'm sure there are a lot of students who have simultaneously done this and have been able to sail through.
Yes.
So if they can, all of you can also, right?
Yes.
So it is Para's journey is definitely a beacon of guidance. And now let's let's get into the personal aspect of this journey. So what was your personal experience on the day, Paras, when you had to appear for the mains examination and when you entered the hall?
Yes,
how was the feeling, and especially when there were some unexpected moments, especially when you were asked to draft some कुछ drafting पे questions आए थे जो कि बिल्कुल ही unexpected थे, आपने उनको पहले practice किया था, then how did you settle with that situation?
Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, on the day of my mains, I was very nervous. So, I think every aspirant is. And I remember I had also, in my mains, carried one headache medicine with me because I was like, because sometimes when I get very stressed, it triggers my migraine. And then so I had carried that migraine medicine with me also, that exam mein mujhe stress na ho jaye. So, I think I was but when the question paper came in front of me, then it was like, बस लिखते जाना and then there was no other thought, no nervousness, no feeling, nothing. And now about those unexpected questions, so I feel that in any exam that we appear, आगे भी जो भी होंगे, it is never going to happen that we know 100% questions with 100% clarity. We'll always have some questions which we know very well, and there'll be always some area जो हमारा weak area होगा, or we'll feel that this question we don't know that well. And from my experience, I feel that it is not those questions which we don't know very well which will determine whether we'll get selected or not. If we know 90% questions, then those questions will determine our selection, but we should not let our mental state during those 3 hours get impacted by that question that we don't know while we are attempting the questions that we know. So, this time, we had this plain and written statement question. So fortunately, I'd done the format for that, and I had practiced that one question of plain and written statement with ma'am also. So I was able to manage it, but I think we were all not expecting it to come because 2-3 साल से नहीं आया था. But the thing is that even some other questions, like some question I was not sure about. So I feel every student will have one or other question that they are not very sure about. They don't know it very well. Just do that question, try to attempt that question to the best extent you can without wasting a lot of time on that question, and don't keep thinking about that question all through your exam. उस question की वजह से अपना confidence मत lose करो for rest 95% of questions, because this is what happens. जो question आपको नहीं आता, अगर आपने अच्छे से prepare किया है तो वो most of the students को नहीं आता होगा, but उस question के चक्कर में don't spoil the rest 95% of your paper. That is very important. Because sometimes what happens, we don't know a question, we keep thinking about it, we waste a lot of time during the exam on that question, and us chakkar mein the questions that we actually know properly, we are not able to give proper time to those questions, and it gets a little. So that's my.
And what about, is it important to complete the whole paper, or is it okay even if you finish like first 4 questions बहुत अच्छे से किए और 5th question थोड़ा सा लिखकर खत्म कर दिया because of time constraint?
So ma'am, I had done all the questions, and I would say that you should attempt all the questions. This is a must. So attempting 80% questions with very beautifully versus attempting 100% questions in a good manner, the latter choice is any day a better choice. So try to finish up. Finishing the paper is very important. ऐसे questions होंगे जो हमें इतने अच्छे से नहीं आते होंगे, 1-2 questions होंगे ऐसे, उसमें it's okay. So उसमें 10 में से अगर 6 highest देने हैं तो आपके 4 आ जाएंगे, 5 आ जाएंगे, that's okay. But you should attempt every question and manage your time in such a way that every question gets attempted. That is very important. Completing the paper is very important.
And how did you learn how to complete the paper and manage the time?
Ma'am, it's because with test series and a lot of answer writing practice, I think ma'am, we had practiced a lot of questions together. I remember ma'am, the first paper that we did, especially criminal law वाला, वो मैंने मेरा मतलब एंड वाले आंसर्स तो ऐसे ही लिख दिए थे एंड बिल्कुल भी अच्छे से कंप्लीट नहीं हुआ था, बिकॉज सबके साथ ही ऐसा होता है, पेपर सच में लेंदी होता है, फर्स्ट टाइम में जब हम लिखेंगे नहीं कंप्लीट होगा. इट्स ओनली व्हेन वी प्रैक्टिस अ लॉट, बहुत बार प्रैक्टिस करते हैं, दैट्स ओनली व्हेन वी रीच दैट पॉइंट दैट वी कैन complete the paper with a decent quality. So
around how much practice have you done for like mains answer writing?
Ma'am, I did a lot of answer writing practice in the last 1 year. I majorly did answer writing practice only.
So around how many, probably the numbers, if students can get inspired by that?
Ma'am, like a vague sort of would be, I think, more around 1,000 questions I would have written, I believe.
Parul? Yes, 1,000 questions or uske answers. That's wonderful and that's truly inspiring. And what was the pivotal role of Efficacious Judicial Academy?
Ma'am, as you mentioned that when I joined you in around May last year, that time my answer writing was, I was a novice and it was very not very average, and it's when I started practicing with you, ma'am, that's when, like, obviously ma'am, you gave me a lot of points at how I should improve. That helped me improve a lot. But ma'am, with you, like the questions that you gave, when we write ourselves, हमें खुद ही बहुत सारी चीजें समझ आ जाती हैं लिखते लिखते, that where we are lacking. So that self analysis also comes when you have the proper questions, when you're practicing the correct questions in a proper format. Like ma'am, बिल्कुल HP format में she used to give us papers, and attempting in that format, a lot of self analysis comes that, okay, this is where I'm lacking, these are the subjects where I'm lacking, and ma'am, you told me where and which areas to improve, and that's how I made my changes in my approach. There were a lot of things that I was doing wrong in the first few papers, especially criminal law wala ma'am used to always point out that it needs to be improved. With every paper, I think there was some improvement in
I remember I've like, when we started and I have your sets of papers, so
Yes,
usme
ma'am.
se wo jo last papers still there's tremendous improvement.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
what about the essays?
Yes, ma'am. Essays for essays. So for English essays, I would say that I used to do my newspaper reading, and newspaper reading में से हमें कोई एक आधा पॉइंट भी मिल जाता है ना, तो उससे नोट कर लेना चाहिए. जैसे कि 7 to 8 स्टैंडर्ड टॉपिक्स होते हैं: विमेन, हेल्थ, एजुकेशन, जनरली अबाउट ह्यूमन वैल्यूज लाइक गुडनेस और डेमोक्रेसी, इक्वालिटी, टॉलरेंस, ऐसे कुछ स्टैंडर्ड टॉपिक्स पे अगर हमें कोई भी न्यूज आर्टिकल मिलती है, कोई भी एक बहुत वेल क्राफ्टेड सेंटेंस मिलता है, सो व्हेन यू डू योर न्यूज़पेपर रीडिंग, स्पेशली द एडिटोरियल्स, सो मेक नोट ऑफ दोज लाइन्स. And then I would recommend that for at least like 7 to 8 major broad essay topics, we should have skeleton essays ready. Like if it's education, then we should have one quotation on education, we should have some statistics, we should have the some points on problems of education, solutions, what is being done, and like a broad skeleton sort of for important topics. It is not necessary that, rather it's very rare that exactly वही question exam में आ जाएगा जिस पे हमारा skeleton essay prepared है. But if you prepare your skeleton essays on these 8 to 9 topics, then inevitably whichever question comes in exam for your essay writing, you will be able to use that material in that essay. For instance, this time we had this topic on responsible judiciary, liberal democracy, and honest citizens, the idea of India. So एग्जैक्टली टॉपिक तो किसी ने भी प्रिपेयर नहीं किया होगा, बट अगर हमें इंडियन जुडिशरी के ऊपर प्रिपेयर की हुई है कि इंडियन जुडिशरी की क्या प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, इफ वी हैव प्रिपेयर्ड अ लिटिल ऑन द वैल्यूज ऑफ लिबर्टी, यू नो लिबर्टी एंड डेमोक्रेसी, देन वो सब मिक्स करके वी कैन यूज इट इन आवर essay. So I would say skeleton essays on 7 to 8 core topics, and try to collect your original material from reading newspapers and editorials. That these are the two things I would say.
And what about the Hindi grammar and essays, Hindi essays? Same strategy?
Ma'am, a little different strategy. So I didn't put in this much effort for my Hindi essay, honestly. So for Hindi grammar, like from what I have noted by analyzing the past year papers and this year paper, that they don't have a fixed syllabus for Hindi grammar. Initially, they used to only ask about Vilom Shabd या Praivachi. This time, संधि एंड ऑल से भी क्वेश्चंस थे, तो एक जनरल हिंदी इम्प्रूव करने की नीड होती है, विच विल help us in translation a lot. So when we work on our translation, उसमें कुछ हिंदी ग्रामर की चीजें हो जाती हैं, एंड जो स्टैंडर्ड चीजें लाइक प्रायवाची शब्द, विलोम शब्द, संधि, समास, उनको वो धीरे धीरे ही होंगे. लाइक आई हैड डन माई education in English, so it was a little difficult for me हिंदी करना. I think जो भी इंग्लिश मीडियम से थोड़ा सा डिफिकल्ट होता है वापस हिंदी ग्रामर पढ़ना, बट द ओनली वे to go about it is pick up any standard book on Hindi grammar, and every day try to do 7 to 8 uh, 7 to 8 points from that. Like if you're doing Praivachi, then doing one page of Praivachi Shabd every day. So bit by bit approach in Hindi grammar is something I would suggest, because it's the scope is really it's huge. Hindi grammar का scope and well defined नहीं है if we look at the past year papers. So bit by bit approach, doing little every day will help us sail through in Hindi grammar. And for Hindi essays, ma'am, I would say that for Hindi essays, I refer to this book. There's this book by Drishti IS on Nibandh in Hindi. I refer to that book. It's a huge book. I didn't do all the essays, but I tried to like pick out 10 to 11 important topics, and I read those essays properly. And I also refer to some sources on YouTube. Like there's some good videos on important Hindi essay topics. So I referred to those, and usse I made my own skeleton essays for Hindi. So for my skeleton essays for Hindi were mostly like copy pasted from books and other material, and for English it was more original.
Original. Okay, okay, okay. All right. So Paris, your journey is really captivating, and yeah, and a lot of learning, a lot of things that I'm sure that all of us would have gathered something or the other by her experience. And now let's transition into a phase of interaction. And it's your time. Participants can feel free and they can ask questions from Paras. Whoever has any question can just give a reaction and can just put a hands up. And then my team will, unmute the participant and then the participant can ask question. Thank you. Yes.
Yes, Pulkit, you can go.
Hi, Paras. First of
Hi.
all, congratulations for your
Thank you
success.
so much. Thank you.
Paras, my question is I face a lot of difficulty with maintaining my consistency. It's just that while I'm taking the regular classes and I'm studying, something comes up like exams, presentations, academics. So, personally, I'm very bothered by the academic stress because I think that it hampers the consistency which I intend to maintain for the exam. So, how would you suggest one should balance that approach? Because given that you are from NLU Jodhpur, you must have managed it quite well. So,
Right. First of all, we need to accept the problem that we have to manage both academics and a judiciary preparation. So we need to manage both the things, and we will be able to manage it if we have the will in it. So we will be able to do it. That should be our conviction. Secondly, I would say that that try to like apart from your academics, because that is something we can't compromise on, वो तो करना ही पड़ेगा, कॉलेज के एग्जाम्स देने ही पड़ेंगे, but उसके अलावा there might be some things which might be eating your time in a day, like if we analyze it, so maybe we can try to filter those things out of our day, and then you can have your you know you can have your regular schedule for tests with ma'am, that I have to appear for a test, like if it's SRA, then मुझे SRA का मैम को टेस्ट देना ही देना है, तो देना ही है तो उसके लिए तो पढ़ना ही पड़ेगा वो, because देना है तो I have to complete it. So making a regular schedule with ma'am, like if ma'am, whatever ma'am suggests and guides in that respect, so if you make a regular schedule for your tests with ma'am, then I feel that it will help you uh, strategize your day better, तो धक्के से पढ़ना ही पड़ेगा, बिकॉज टेस्ट है, वो भी एकेडमिक्स का पार्ट बन जाएगा फिर, जुडिशरी वाला भी, है ना. सो आई थिंक दैट्स, एंड एट द एंड ऑफ द डे आई थिंक वी नीड टू एक्सेप्ट दैट अब हमने चैलेंज लिया ही है ये कि एकेडमिक्स भी करना है, जुडिशरी भी करना है, तो करना ही पड़ेगा. So we have to give in 100% and it will all happen.
okay, Paras, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, that's Monica's question. Thank you, Paras, for that, first of all. And because Monica's in the library, she has just typed her question. And yeah, so her question is that, please can you just give us some details about your interview?
Yeah, sure. It was a 3-member panel in my interview. I believe one of them was the chairman of the commission, and one was honorable justice, and one was an expert. So my first question was introduce yourself, and after that they asked me. Uh, One of the questions was, why do you want to be a judge? Why did you choose law? They asked me about what is the process of a criminal trial after filing of the charge sheet. How does a criminal trial proceed? And then some of the other questions were difference between review and appeal, and difference between Article 32 and 226, difference between limitation and lashes, difference between Article 141 and 142 of the Constitution, and then like there were some questions based on my hobbies and things that I'd written, like in my DAF there was a mention about domestic violence act, तो फिर domestic violence act पे they questioned me, and वहाँ से they questioned me that okay, there's a provision for maintenance under domestic violence act, so which other law provides for maintenance? Then from 125 they took me to maintenance under Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act, and from that the learned expert member, he asked some practical questions on, that if a mother gives up the right of her child in maintenance in a compromise in a suit, can the son then institute another suit after attaining majority to challenge that? So questions like these, like factual questions. And then there was one question they asked me on current affairs, which was, what is going on in Middle East? What is your take on that? बहुत ज़्यादा current affairs मुझसे नहीं पूछे थे. That was the only question they asked me. And apart from that, they asked me about what do you mean by audio alterum partem? How is it different from natural justice? So that was another question. And yeah, another question was who can file an appeal against acquittal, who can file an appeal against conviction, and that's what I can recall at the moment. I think that was pretty much it. There must be 2, 3 or more questions, but I'm not able to exactly recall what they were. But this was pretty much it.
Thank you so much, Paris.
Yes,
So
actually, I got reminded about 2, 3 other questions. So one question was, how will you reduce pendency? And then I told them that adjournments and all, I'll be very like if there is a cause beyond the control of the party. And then they were like, no, but you are a 23-year-old person, and there'll be like 50-year-old advocates in front of you. How will you refuse them? So like they tried to test me on that point. They were like, okay, if the learned expert member on the panel, he comes before you and asks for adjournment, will you also exercise that level of scrutiny? So they were just trying to dig a little deep, and then they asked me about what is the most important quality of a judge, and they asked me to explain that properly.
what were your answers, Paris, to them? Like, were you to the first question, like about the adjournments? Did
Yes.
you? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. So I was like, the law is the same for everyone. Like I said it with a lot of humility and like bowing down and all. That so the law is the same for everyone, and I'll have to exercise the same level of scrutiny because I have to be true to my work. And
Yeah.
yes,
Wonderful, wonderful. Yes.
ma'am. And ma'am, then there was another question that people are very scared of coming to the court. So as a judicial officer, how will you ensure that people are able to come to the court and they're able to have that faith in the court? Like they're not scared. A victim is not scared to come to the court. So what measures will you use to ensure that people are not scared? So this was another question. And then they asked me some HPGK questions, like few questions on HPGK.
And answers to them, like yes, what would you do to reduce the fear in the public? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. So I told that like through my conduct, I will ensure that it's people are not scared and all. And then I gave them specific measures, like if it's a victim of sexual assault who is coming before me, then I'll use measures like single visibility screens and no aggressive cross-examination. And if it is like a vulnerable witness, then witness protection scheme ke provisions I'll apply. So I gave few examples from these laws too. Yes, ma'am.
Wonderful. Yes. So I understand that, after looking into, the entire journey, right from the preliminary examination, then mains, and then interview, that it is just not limited to the syllabus of the HP Judicial Services. It is a complete, comprehensive knowledge.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's a complete personal development plus the professional development, technical development that a candidate must have. So it is just not law limited to the syllabus that they have, in their syllabus.
Absolutely, ma'am.
Yeah, one should be,
Yes, ma'am.
well
Ma'am,
versed in
yeah.
newspapers and whatever is happening currently.
Ma'am, I
Yes.
just wanted to add one thing. Like for prelims and mains, we don't have constitution in our syllabus. But in interview, they asked me questions on constitution, and some other students also they asked. So constitution we must study for interview, like the main points, not in that great detail, but that's one thing that I wanted to mention.
I have always been telling all this to my students. Constitution अच्छे से पढ़ो, interview में आएगा.
Yes, ma'am. Interview में पूछा था.
Yes. And there is one more question from one of the participant here, and she's just written that message. She says, okay, first of all, congratulations, ma'am. What kind of questions they asked from the newly added syllabus? Okay, that's a good one.
Yes, ma'am. So in mains, I think so for prelims there were quite a few questions from the new laws that were added this time in criminal law paper. In mains this time there were, I think, proportionately not those many number of questions. Very one or two very easy questions from the newly added syllabus, but that's no guarantee of what follows next. So maybe next time they'll ask more from that area. And for interview, like in my CV, there was Domestic Violence Act, so उससे questions पूछे थे, but मुझसे new laws से as such कुछ questions नहीं पूछे थे interview में.
Okay, and Paras, there is this one more fear in the aspirants that people from outside Himachal,
Yes.
उनको interview में जो है ना preference नहीं मिलती है. Is that true or is it a myth?
Ma'am, I am outside of Himachal, and so there was nothing like that. So sometimes this may be the case that if you're outside from Himachal, they will try to look for a reason that why you want to come to Himachal. They asked me also, and उस पे बहुत cross questioning भी की थी. Like they said that really you will be able to live in Himachal. Temperature. There are some areas जहाँ minus में temperature होता है, तो वहाँ कैसे? So like that they try to like question and all, but I don't, ma'am, I feel that it's very important for us to have faith in the process and faith in the people who are interviewing us. It's only then that we'll be able to feel confident. And I am from outside Himachal, and we don't know the interview marks yet, but I think इतने बुरे भी नहीं होंगे. Yes, ma'am. So don't have that fear in your mind at all. Yes, we should be ready for some questions like these, that why Himachal, we should have a strong reason for that. And basic information, like they ask me how many districts are there in Himachal, how many judges are there in HP High Court. So maybe they'll ask you, they'll try to look if you have some knowledge about HP or not. But it's not like they'll not take you because you're not from HP. That's not the case at all.
So that's a myth.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, wonderful. All right. Any other questions? Yes. Everybody's at okay. Yes, Pulkit.
Paras, were you regular with your newspaper reading? Because when I read the newspaper, I take out the political section, so I find it very rubbish. So moving on to the sports section, it's not relevant. So I just think that only editorials
Yes.
and few legal updates are relevant for the
Yeah.
message. So do you agree on the same?
Yeah, so like for HP, they don't ask us GK either in prelims or in mains. So we don't need to read newspaper from that perspective of छोटी छोटी चीजें निकालनी है newspaper से नहीं. But like I used to read Indian Express, and I would say that if we read like on a lot of days, I used to just read these 3 pages, which is the front page, the editorial page, and the explained page. It's the best if we can read the full newspaper entirely. It'll help us only, but nahi hoga to on a lot of days I used to read just these 3 pages. So I think that's fine.
From English and from vocabulary perspective, and from the perspective to increase the reading skills.
Yes.
So from that perspective, I understand that reading newspaper is very crucial. But from
Yes.
the GK and updating the legal knowledge from that perspective.
Yes. So so newspaper reading mein what happens is, say explained page pe Indian Express mein a lot of times they discuss legal issues, and those issues become important for our essays and interview ke liye, to they become really important. So that way it helps us. And yes, you are right, like for improving language and all, editorial page really helps for improving language and all.
Okay. And how about the case laws? Any strategy to remember the case laws?
Yes, ma'am. So for case laws, I think just I had made separate lists for subject-wise lists for case laws, and वो revise करते बार. And when we used to practice any answer on that topic, include those case laws, then automatically those case laws get assimilated in our memory. So I would feel like I feel that the bottom line is multiple revisions of case laws, case names, and yeah.
I've always been telling students that revision is just like building muscles.
Yes, ma'am.
तो जितना बारी रिवीजन करोगे उतना ज्यादा मसल स्ट्रांग होगी of your brain.
Absolutely, ma'am. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Only
But what was your primary source of preparation, Paras? Like for each subject, you had how many notebooks? Like, did you prepare? Like for preliminary examination, you mentioned bare act is sufficient.
Yes, ma'am.
For mains examination, like, आपने कैसे notes prepare किए? Case laws के अलग notes prepare किया? कैसे किया? How did you do? How did you go about it?
So, ma'am, like I didn't prepare separate notes for case laws. It was just one combined notes, and like almost like वो जो spiral binding वाला मोटा register होता है, that for like major laws 1 register or sometimes 1.5 register like for CRPC. That was about it. And like when I revised it 10 to 11 times revised कर लिया था, then I made very short notes of 4 to 5 pages which I revised in the last few days.
I've been telling this to all my students. Yes, yes. I've been telling them, कि this is the exact strategy कि notebook बनाओ और उसके बाद जो है and then make your skeleton notes. Once you have taken the revision multiple times, then just reduce your entire subject into a double sheet paper. And then you should have several attempts of your mock tests.
Yes.
Mock tests, yeah, they will definitely add, not only add, but only that is the way you can sail through in these competitive exams.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And there's this another question from Rupali. She says, okay, she's also congratulating Paras. My question is that for complete preparation, how much specific time do we require to crack the Judicial Services Examination?
So like I think that again depends on a lot of factors. Like if we have done our subjects properly in college, then maybe it'll take less time. If we haven't, then maybe it'll take more time. But like a very broad sort of range would be, I think, 1 to 1.5 year of preparation, full dedicated preparation would be good. If we are able to dedicatedly prepare for 1.5 year, we can manage it.
Dedicatedly means like how many hours in a day?
Ma'am, like if we are just doing this and like I believe hours again, ma'am, it's a little subjective, but around 8 hours a day would be.
8 hours a day. Yes. Completely for judicial services, right? Yes. Okay. Yes, wonderful. Any other questions? No. All right. Okay. So thank you, dear Paras. I have something, a heartfelt note for you, Paras, that you have truly been a Paras of our academy. You know, what is the meaning of Paras? What
Yes,
is the
ma'am.
yes? What is it?
Ma'am, it's a mystical stone which has the ability to turn iron into gold.
Yes. So it's a touchstone of grace. Yes. So
Thank
she has been throughout with me, just like in the academy also. वही हम दोनों का relationship रहा है, and she has put in a lot of efforts. I have put in a lot of efforts, and she is truly a Paras for the academy, and that is how I resonate her with my academy and with me. And congratulations once again on that wonderful and excellent achievement in
Thank you
HP
so much,
Judicial
ma'am. Thank you
Services.
so much for being there.
Yeah, so second rank is like commendable, and I just wish you success in future. And yes, I would also like to extend my gratitude to everyone who has participated in today's session, and your engagement, all of yours engagement and enthusiasm, I'm sure will fuel the essence of our community as our efficacious judicial academy. And always stay inspired, stay motivated, keep reaching out to your goals. And in the end, I have some few tips for my students, which I would like to add on, because now they are going to they're the next that they have to appear, and now it's their turn. And I'm really looking forward कि अब पारस के बाद जो है ना हमारी इस अकेडमी से नेक्स्ट बच्चा वहाँ पे आए और हम उसको इंटरव्यू करें. So it's
Yes.
been a wonderful journey with Paras. Thanks a lot. Wishing you bright future of judging and lot of success. अच्छे से जस्टिस करो, मैकेनिकल जस्टिस मत करना, एक्चुअल जस्टिस करना, सेवा भावना से जो है इस प्रोफेशन को लेना बेटा, ऑलवेज.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Dipang, can you just share that screen if it is readily available? Okay, it's how sweet he's made this for you. Thank you, Dipang. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, can you all see this on the screen? be like a seed and grow every day. That's my take. That's my nugget for all of you today. Picture yourself as a small seed and each day nurture your growth. Please don't get carried away. Don't be under any stress. Just as a seed transforms into a tree over time, focus on making gradual improvements in your life. So learn, explore, and challenge yourself regularly. With each passing day, accumulate experiences and knowledge that contribute to your overall development. Embrace the journey of continuous, steady progress towards unlocking your full potential. And that is the only nugget I have learned over all these years in this journey of judicial services examination. There is this bamboo tree, Chinese bamboo tree. Year one में आपका 0 feet, मतलब zero growth है. Year two, this is how the Chinese bamboo tree grows. Year three also it remains zero again. Year four also it remains zero again. And year five it shoots into a beautiful 80 feet in 6 weeks. Right? So the ones who are struggling, please be patient and persistent. Your breakthrough is coming. But yes, stay inspired, stay motivated, and keep reaching for your goals. So God bless and best wishes to all of you. Thank you, Paras, for your valuable time. And it was lovely having you with us today.
Ma'am, I was just saying that it's my pleasure and it really means a lot to me to be able to interact with all of you today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. All right, we end our session. Thank you. Bye bye.